Hi everyone, welcome to our latest video. Pleased to be able to show you this afternoon this really quite stunning Kawasaki Versys 1000 GT. Now this bike is a 2016 66 plate and she's covered just under 6,000 miles with just one owner from new, and the total mileage currently stands at around 5,800. I think it's fair to say that David, the previous keeper, has mollycoddled this bike somewhat. It really has been kept in lovely condition, and with a very grateful recipients of a lovely sports tourer in part exchange for a Triumph Tiger 1200. So David decided to go down the slightly more rugged route of adventure biking, and arguably that's where Kawasaki pitched the previous Versys as an adventure bike. But I think it's fair to say in 2015, when it overwent a much needed facelift, it very much sits in the sports tourer bracket, in my opinion. But what a cracking job Kawasaki did of the facelift. The previous Versys, whilst it shares largely the same frame, engine and running gear as this model, it wasn't the prettiest of bikes, but Kawasaki have put their sort of current design stamp on this and made it look really quite pretty and aggressive at the same time. At the front there, these raked back headlights are actually akin to the ZX-10 Superbike. But just generally, both the front, the side panels, side fairings, and this integrated luggage, it's really turned it into a cracking looking bike and a cracking performing bike. So what we've got here is Kawasaki's inline 4-cylinder engine, 1043cc, and in one form or another this engine's found both in the Versys, the Z1000SX and the Z1000 naked bike. Now in the Versys she's putting out a claimed by MCN of course, but 118 brake horsepower, and I have to say, to me that feels like an underestimate, because these bikes can really still hustle. You can really crack on and make some serious progress. Top speed's about 140 miles an hour, but also the handling, and this is where it's quite obvious that it's a sports tourer rather than an adventure bike, because despite its 250 kilogram weight, it handles brilliantly. So we'll do some close-ups for you. As you can see, we've got this integrated luggage system, which is frameless. So basically, once we've taken the panniers from their mountings, we're left without any frames like the earlier models. You can see we've got a Kawasaki branded give you top box there, and again on the left side that integrated pannier. Now they do the Versys in a number of colours, but I have to say I think this this sort of silvery grey works really well. It's quite subtle. So if you like the idea of a Versys but you're not particularly into the Kawasaki green, this is a nice subtle, dare I say, conservative option. And the GT of course is the top spec, and it comes with these auxiliary fog stroke riding lights. And while we're here, we can show you that this particular bike's got a radiator guard from Power Bronze, so just to keep the worst of the stones and rocks that sometimes get thrown up, keeping the radiator safe. So we've got those fog lights. We've also got these engine crash bars, which are obviously both sides of the bike. We've got hand guards, and we've also got Oxford heated grips. Now, not only that, it's optional on all Versys, but standard on the GT is the gear indicator, and we've also got a 12-volt power socket there as well, just to the left of the instrument panel. So we'll do some close-ups for you. As you can see, she's been kept in really good order, cleaned and polished after every ride. And she's completely damage free. Hopefully you won't get too much glare from the late afternoon sun. Should give you a really good indication of how clean this bike is. You can see there the downpipes, and even do some close-ups on the front of the engine there. Okay, now we're at the front. Good opportunity to tell you that of course, being a GT, which is equipped with ABS brakes and the usual Kawasaki setup there with the petal or wavy front discs and the Tokiko 4-pot calipers. And you'll also see from the sticker on the front mudguard there, so you can see ABS, but we've also got KTRC, and that's Kawasaki's traction control. So when we start her up and take you through the instrument panel, we can show you how that works. But basically we've got ABS brakes, we've got traction control, and that should ultimately keep you pretty much on the black stuff, whatever the weather. You can see the mileage there is 5880, and you can just see on the instrument panel there we're currently in KTRC 2, which is the medium intervention, and we can actually turn that off as well. We can go all the way through to that's the power mode you can see flashing on the left hand side, and that we can go from full power to low power, which I believe is just under 100 horsepower. And then you can probably see flashing there, we can adjust the traction control to 3, back to 2, back to 1, 1 being the least intrusive. So basically, if you have to stop in a hurry and it's wet, the ABS should stop the wheels from locking up and keep you safe. And likewise, if you're accelerating hard, or indeed you just exit a roundabout and there's some slippery stuff on the road, then the traction control should keep you rubber side down. And again, we'll just do some close-ups for you on the left hand side. I have to say, this bike is a real credit to David. The one thing I would say about the Versys and the Z1000SX, they are built well, they're a very solid bike, but you do have to keep on top of them with regards to cleaning. If you ride all year round and you ride in all weathers, there's no getting away from it. There are certain items that are built to a budget, but then that's what allows Kawasaki to sell a bike of this stature and this specification at the price they do. So as long as you keep them covered with the necessary bike cleaning and you know, sort of anti-salt coatings and everything, then there's no reason why they won't last as long as anything else. But just something worthy of note. Okay, let's start her up for you. Just before we do so, she's got a full service history. Already had 2 service stamps with Kawasaki, and you can probably see there from the opacity of the oil, which is almost completely see-through, that we've just carried out a 3rd service. So she's ready to go. Ignition on. You see it carry out its self-check. And if you'll excuse the camera one moment, because start her up. And you can see there the gear indicator indicates 0. And we have heated grips. Take all the way up to 100%. Keep those little pinkies warm in the winter. And then this is the auxiliary fog lights. It really is quite an imposing bike from the front when you've got all the lights blazing. It's a gentle encouragement for the cars in front of you to move out the way. You'll see that David, the previous owners, added some, I think, quite subtle reflective decals onto the luggage and the bike. Not too much, but probably a sign of his previous employment, which was 30 years in the police and a number of years as a police outrider. So at least you know that the previous owner of this bike has certainly known how to ride it. Just give the throttle a couple of blips so you can hear the standard exhaust. And there you go, that's what a standard Versys sounds like. Now the other thing about the Versys is they have been voted one of the most pillion friendly bikes you can buy, regardless of price. But we think this is cracking value for a 2-year-old bike with under 6,000 miles. As you can see, she's got full 3-part genuine Kawasaki luggage, heated grips, traction control, ABS, gear indicator, auxiliary riding and fog lights, and a host of other things, including a slipper clutch. What else is there to say? Beautiful condition, and this bike's available at 8495. I hope you enjoyed the video.